What's going on, everyone? Dr. Todd and Dani from the MoveNow Chiropractor. This is episode number 293. We're going to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that Dani talks to a lot of you doctors about and your staff about to help you connect, because you doctors do not know how to train your staff, is the takeaway of what Dani has told me. There's no offense to that. I'm not saying that in an offending way. It's just she works with your staff and she is able to connect with them and get the job done. At the end of the day, everyone's happy. So for those of you who are members of MoveNow or not members, the information we're going to share right now is going to be helpful for you to understand maybe how your staff learns a little bit better, what they need, and just some of the experiences that Dani has. And for some of you who are non-members wondering what we do, you've been following us for a while, this will give you a better idea of what's to come. We're going to talk a little bit about an upcoming event, impact number. What number is this?
11.
11. Listen to Dani's audio. Her audio is so good. She updated her audio. I'm playing around with a different camera. She's going to get her camera game going by our next one. But this is episode 293. I'm going to roll the intro. If you've heard it before, you can forward past this part. If you haven't, though, hey, you should probably listen up. Here's what so many chiropractors have been searching for. How can we expand our clinical reach by finally addressing more than just the segmental component with our patients, but at the same time, not feel like we are selling out our chiropractic principles? The reality is our patients count on us to guide them, and when it comes to results, we must also address their posture and their movement. The verdict is out. Patients have spoken, and this is what they want and what they need, focusing on functional movement and corrective exercise. So how do we practice in a way where our community is engaged, excited, and seeking us out because of this comprehensive, results-based approach? That's the goal we've all been searching for, and this podcast will show you how. My name is Dr. Todd Pickman, and welcome to the MoveNow Chiropractor. All right, we're back. That was it. Okay, 293, we're going to talk about what Dani goes through meeting with doctors and their teams. So I guess just to set the stage a little bit, we have a program, MoveNow University. It's an online program. It's an in-person program. It's coaching essentially to put systems in your practice on how to put functional movement, corrective exercise, rehab, but it's grown into so much more than that. It's systems, it's communication. It's really just trying to model things that we've learned in practice. And we've done our 20th or 30th revision to get to the point we're at now, where we have a super smooth running clinic. I mean, it's almost like if you walked into a really well-organized business of any type, or a really well-organized, let's say, hospital, and they have a million different checks and balances. Or if you are, oh my gosh, my dog is coming in here now and he just rocked the camera. I say, hi, Dorian. Hey, buddy. Left my door open. So anyway, that's what MoveNow is to chiropractic, because I felt like it was needed. Dani's been our office manager for the last couple years now, going on like 15 years of working with us, something like that.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
close.
Feels like it.
Feels
Yeah.
like it.
Okay. So yeah, she's been it's been over 3 years now, right?
2.
It's not three
We're
yet
coming up on 2.5.
of office manager or working total.
2 years office manager, 2.5 total.
Man, I felt like it's been over 3 already. Okay. Well, I'm losing track of time. And I'm only saying that as a compliment because of how much stuff has gotten done under you being on the team, because it's been like, it's finally gotten to that transformation that after, I'm in my 20th year of practice that I really wanted to achieve in the clinic. We're there. And so it's thanks to time, it's thanks to systems, it's thanks to you putting it together, being able to connect with our team. And so now I know other chiropractors want to reproduce that in their practice. That's what you're trying to do for them. We're trying to do. I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you talk a little bit about some of the doctors and the team that you connect with, and let's have a conversation about it.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I have been trying to emphasize with our new members when they join MoveNow University is that this is not just for them. This is for their entire team. And I feel like there's a little bit of a misconception when members join. They feel like the doctor has to do everything and everything is for them. So I try and encourage them to bring their staff on this. Don't be selfish. Let your staff have access to the online training library, all the videos. Their staff needs that anyways, but I think doctors feel like they have to go through everything and then they have to turn around and train their staff, when really we should all be doing this together. So I encourage doctors to let their staff have access to the online training and bring your staff on Zoom. And now, more often than not, when I do my weekly Zoom implementations with doctors, I make sure that their staff is available for that time too. So now I'm meeting with the entire team. So that way I can speak to the doctors on what they need to work on. I can speak to the other staff members on what they need to work on instead of the doctors meeting with me one on one and then trying to go back and relay the information to their team. It's so much more beneficial when we are all on there together. And then there's times where we do breakouts with their staff. I'll meet with their front desk or their office manager. Emily steps in every now and then to go over some stuff with the exercise therapist, and they get so much more out of their training than just being selfish and kind of keeping everything to themselves.
Yeah, because I mean, like ultimately keeping it to themselves that doesn't really help. It's almost like back in the day, chiropractors going out to seminars to learn about stuff, and they're really excited, and they come back on Monday, and then they try to tell it to their staff, and their staff is just not nearly as excited as they are because they weren't there to experience it.
Yep.
Right. And so it's like on the same note, if the doctor is the only one going through the training and then trying to regurgitate it and move it forward to the staff, that's just, I mean, one, it's not productive, doesn't really work. It's exhausting for the doctor. They don't have time for that. Doctor needs to be running their clinic, seeing patients. The staff needs to be doing their work in the background. And so it, like, this whole thing is just like Danny's saying, it's empowering your staff to do that homework and to help build the processes and the culture in the clinic that you want to achieve. So it doesn't have to all lie on you, right?
Yep.
So that's the like breath of fresh air, is that these systems are set where the staff is doing their work simultaneously. You might be diving further into, improving your clinical knowledge on functional movement and some of the exercise protocols and how you're going to weave this into your existing practice. Meanwhile, your staff's learning about, okay, well, how do we track this? How do we chart this? How do we make sure it's billed accordingly? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the beginning, when I first started doing doctor support and really diving into these weekly implementations with doctors, it blew me away that they felt like this was just for them. And their biggest stressor was that, well, I got to train my staff and I don't really know how to train my staff. And that's when it clicked with me that we're not on the same page. I'm thinking that this is a team thing. They're thinking that it's just for them. So I really changed the way that I approach our kind of strategy for how we're going to do this in 12 weeks with doctors when they first join. During their implementation call, we map out, what's your end goal in this? What are we striving for at the end of 12 weeks? And that's where I have started really stressing that, hey, this is a team effort, because I didn't realize that they didn't understand that from the beginning. And the way that you laid things out, there's a week by week roadmap for this 12-week implementation. And on there, it divvies up all the tasks between what the doctor has to do, what the therapist has to do, and what the front desk has to do. And so it's laid out for them. So now when I go through those week by week, I make sure that those people are available for me to speak to. So that way I can tell the doctor exactly what they need to do, front desk, and then exercise therapist. So that way everybody has their assignments for the week. And the doctor's not trying to go back and tell the staff, you need to do this, you need to do that. We're all in it together. And the offices that I'm working with right now that are still in their 12-week implementation process, I meet with all of them. I meet with their staff, I meet with the doctor. We're all on it together. And then we'll do breakouts with the staff. And it comes to a point to where a lot of the work needs to be done by the staff. When we get to ClickFunnels and setting up the email drip system, and when we're really focusing on movement assessments and the exercise therapist running that department, the doctor needs to know all of this stuff. But I need to focus with their staff to get these things done so they can focus on the bigger things. I need them to get their day 1 through 5 process down. I need them to understand how to pre-frame this 12-week transformation from day 1. So there are some times where I'm like, I'll let you know when I need you. Right now, I need to focus with your staff and we need to get this stuff done. And the biggest thing is setting up their 12-week transformation online portal for their patients, getting that set up in ClickFunnels, getting things dialed in with Cash Practice and their email drip system. Doctors try and take that on themselves, and it shouldn't be that way. Their staff should take that over because their staff is the one who's going to be doing all the behind the scenes stuff.
Mm.
And just to clarify a little bit more for those who are not members, a part of MoveNow University is the 12-week transformation for patients. That's their side of things. And it includes an online exercise library that the patients access. So that way they can do their home care at home, stuff that they would normally do in the office. We give them the tools and the resources to be able to do those at home. So it's a collective effort on their results at the end of 12 weeks. The doctor does their portion when they're in the office, and then we're holding our patients accountable to do their portion at home. So that's what this whole ClickFunnels 12-week transformation is. It's getting their side of the exercise library dialed in specific for their clinic. So it's very easy for the staff to handle that themselves. So that way the doctor can focus on their day 1 through 5 process, pre-framing, how they're going to approach patients with this. So we try and tag team those tasks. So that way we get the most out of our 12-week training.
Yeah. And as you're saying this, I'm pulling this up on my screen because I want to play around with being able to share the screen here and show something cool. So here is our 12-week transformation. And just yesterday, I had a patient. I take care of, our clinic ends up right now. We have a lot of Russian and Ukrainian patients, and so this Slavic community, we've tapped into that. We see a lot of these patients, and I'm using this as an example because this one patient of mine who is Russian, who still has a pretty thick Russian accent. He's lived in the U.S. for several years, but he was telling me yesterday, he made a point at the end of his appointment yesterday, and it was cool because I looked over at Jenna, she's my assistant in the room, after he said this, but he said, Dr. Todd, he says, Dr. Todd, I just want to tell you, okay, I'm not going to try to do a Russian accent, but he said, Dr. Todd, I just want to tell you, the videos that you have that you give us access to are phenomenal. They're amazing. We appreciate them so much. They help so much. I'm watching all of them. I'm tracking each week in the 12-week transformation. I just wanted to tell you that. And that was pretty cool. He said that on his way leaving yesterday. And so patients can engage in this from, mild, medium to, jump right in. But in the 12-week transformation, this is a portal that we put together for our patients. They have access to. And there's an exercise library. And in the exercise library, it categorizes all the dysfunctions. And then patients can go into this and they can click on one of these videos. And then there's videos, some of them are old school. See, there's me and trainer Tony back in the day when I was young and had my whole life ahead of me. And then there's ones that we did where they're a little more up to date. I think it was these. I'm trying to find some. No, that's an old one too. But videos that we made, we're wearing MoveNow University shirts, and almost all of these, it's all branded for MoveNow. It's not branded for our clinic. This one specifically is for our clinic. The thing Dani's talking about in ClickFunnels is this online portal where you can basically pull this into your ClickFunnels account, go through a couple quick customizations, and now you have a version of the 12-week transformation. That video in the upper left, which is me welcoming them to the 12-week transformation, that's the only video that you have to replace. You throw your staff in over here, and now it's customized for you. Okay. And so, not to go off, down the rabbit hole on all these little specifics, but the thing that Dani is helping set up, which I think is really beneficial and powerful for the doctor. I'm thinking about this from my standpoint. If like someone like Dani, or there's a system like this, I was going to incorporate into my clinic, and I'm as busy as I am. And if I knew behind the scenes every week, this person named Dani is meeting with my team and they're going through and laying the groundwork and putting these systems in place. And I know what the end goal is. The end goal is a smooth running clinic that can render more beneficial services for patients, being able to generate more revenue, being able to get better results, and have smooth operations so that everyone knows what they're supposed to do at what time. If I know that that's the end goal, and then I got this Dani person who's working with my team for the first several weeks, laying that groundwork, and I'm watching these things happen. My staff's coming to me and saying, hey, Dr. Todd, there's some things we need to order to put up on the wall and do this and do this. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to get you engaged, and then Dani's reaching out to me and telling me stuff I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, cool. Yep. I can put a couple hours aside, amongst my patient hours in my life, and I can study some of this stuff too on the doctor track. And then it all comes together, and it's like, oh my gosh, my team is on the same page. They're super excited about it. That motivates me to make sure I'm going to get this going, because the number one thing that I've done over the years, which has been a failure that I look back on and wish I would have done differently, is I've had a lot of cool ideas, but you get started on them and you don't follow through, and it just sits on the shelf and collects dust because you don't ever fully execute. And so Dani started this by talking about something that she has learned. And what she has learned in doing this is how to get clinics implemented, how to get them to engage and do this. So my message, I just want to say out there, especially to our MoveNow University doctors that were early on in our program, that joined the program, maybe started implementing, got sidetracked, started working on something else and haven't come back around to it. A lot has improved and changed since we started, because we've learned a lot. It's this constant evolution. We had a ton to offer before. We have even more dialed in now. So I would just strongly recommend reach out to Dani, reach out to myself, and I'm just going to get you connected back with Dani if you reach out to me, to be honest, and jump on with her and reignite this process. Okay, because it's so cool to see these clinics that are implementing and putting in place and getting the same type of patient reactions and results and stuff that we see every day. You know, it's like going through and talking with our staff. It's just funny sometimes. I have to almost step back and think about this when if I hear Jenna talk about, and she's using like all of our lingo on like rec cards and phase 1 and phase 2. And then I hear like, Emily talking about like, well, sequence 2, warm up, and then D1 through D3. And then Dr. Zach come, and so we have our own language that makes this super quick communication between us as team members for us to be able to do something with patients that in the past would have taken 10 times longer. But because we're all on the same page and we all understand the systems and this language, we can deliver so much more to our patients in a shorter period of time. And then the last thing I want to say, at least in this little rant, is that's the difference between not being successful and being successful, is the rate and the speed of being able to implement and do things over a period of time. Okay, because there's people out there that are really smart, that have access to really good stuff, but they never get it going in their clinic, or it takes them so long to get it going, they don't reach that success point because they took a process that they could have gotten going, in a week, in 2 weeks, and they took 3 months to do it. Okay. Like the way I'm wired, and well, this is a good thing and a bad thing for you as a doctor who's watching this, if you don't necessarily match the same wiring process as me. Like, for example, in our clinic, we're getting DMX in 2 weeks. So we're getting digital motion x-ray put in. And the second I pulled the trigger on it and said, okay, we're getting this. And mind you, in the future, we're going to do all kinds of cool training and teaching on this stuff, because I'm really excited to do this clinically, and then how we're going to wrap this into our systems as well with, excessive motion, spinal ligament injuries, personal injury stuff, et cetera. But anyway, like once we committed to it and I was like, we're doing this, it was okay. That week, that Friday, we're going in doing construction in the clinic, and we're knocking down walls. We're moving stuff around. And I remember, and this is no knock to Dr. Zach, but he's like, well, yeah, I can get that next step done like next Friday. And I'm like, by next Friday, I'll have 15 other steps already done, and we'll have 26 other things that we need to do. No, like we're getting it done today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And then by Monday, it's already done. And then we're on to the next piece. And those are the examples and things where if you can get that implementation process going, if you can just pull the trigger and go and just put that energy and that work in up front, you will be able to reap all the benefits once it's in place. That's what Dani is essentially doing, is accelerating this process. So Dani, give everyone an idea of kind of like, because I'm sitting here trying to think, okay, if I know nothing about this process, and if I was going to implement something in our clinic, what would I want to know? How long does it take to do this? How long is each meeting when you're jumping on with the team members and the doctors? And at what point can we get this thing rolling so we can start to actually deliver services, and put these systems in place? So
Sure.
that's my question.
Yeah. So it's not one size fits all, and not every clinic is the same. Everybody has different circumstances. So initially, we do an implementation call, and I want to know, how do you envision this going? What is your end goal? Like, what is in your mind about how this all is going to work? And so as soon as they give me that feedback, I realistically come to them and be like, okay, perfect. We are on track for 12 weeks. We definitely can get this done in that amount of time. And by week 8, I want you testing this out on existing patients. So on week 8, you're going to have your list of existing patients that you want to introduce this to. Then you're going to have an additional 4 weeks to work out all of the kinks before this becomes your standard of care. And that is the end goal for me, for these doctors, is that after 12 weeks, this is going to be your standard of care. It's our
And,
standard of care in the
and,
office. Go ahead.
and if I can just jump in. And so when you're saying standard of care, you're meaning like your next new patient that comes in at week 12, they don't know
Mhm.
any different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like your day 1, day 2, day 3. If you have
Mhm.
systems like that, hopefully you do. If you don't, we're going to help you put them in place. Now, how do you put functional movement in? How do you start communicating this? How do you build this in
Mhm.
clinically? Okay. Throw it
Yep.
back to you.
Yeah. So that's my end goal for these doctors, and that's what Move Now University is all about. Is we are going to get you to a point to where you have a fully functioning functional movement department in 12 weeks. So it should be their standard of care. If they don't feel like they want this to be their standard of care and they kind of want to pick and choose who qualifies for this program, then that's what we work with. And that's what I help them go towards. Then what is a qualified patient? We sit down, we talk about all of that. What do you feel qualifies a patient for the 12-week transformation? If office is kind of teetering between insurance and cash, how is that going to work? What are the fees going to look like? So we go over all of that literally in our implementation call. So I know what we need to focus on in that time frame. If something is not going to pertain to their office, their clinic, then we are going to spend as little time on that as possible and move on to the bigger things that are going to be important for them. The
Mhm.
goal is to get this done in 12 weeks. Some offices are in the middle of a transition and they're not going to be opening their doors for 6 months. So we have a little bit more time to work with, but we still want to stay on pace. We still want to stay on track. Our weekly meetings are about 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes, just depending. But I stay in contact with everybody throughout the week. And so I'm checking in to see how they're doing. Today, I've got 2 calls after we are done with this with clinics. And so we're going to go over what they went over last week, if they have any questions. And then we're going to prepare for what's coming up this week. Who needs to work on what we're going to focus on? Are we still on track for our launch date, which we set at implementation, the day that they want everything to be in place? Are we still on track for that? And then prepping for what's coming next. Is there anything that they need to purchase? Is there anything that they need to speak to you about when it comes to the day 1 through 5 process? There are some things that I can't fully speak on because I'm not a chiropractor. So at that point, I release them over to you so that way you can help work out the kinks on that side of things. So typically our calls are about 30, 45 minutes, just depending. I do check in 2 or 3 times throughout the week just to see, hey, do you guys have any questions? Has anything come up since then? I am trying to do the best that I can do to set their teams, their clinic, everything up for success. So we stay on track for that 12-week implementation standard of care. That's what we're designed to do. If it doesn't work out that way, I still try and keep them motivated to keep going.
Yeah. So it might take 15 weeks if it doesn't take 12 weeks, for example,
Yeah.
if something
And
comes.
that's okay. We try and nail that down during the implementation call. So realistically, can you implement this in 12 weeks?
So,
Are
so,
you
so
in some sort of transition?
you're going through, like, do you have a vacation coming up? Do you have staff that's
Mhm.
coming out of town? Like,
Yep.
trying to figure out every variable you possibly can,
Yep.
so that when you set a launch date, it's a realistic date and it's not just
Mhm.
like, like a dream that you're throwing around out
Mhm.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think wrapping up this topic, something that for members and non-members alike, we were doing this twice a year. We'll likely do a second one this year again. Essentially in-person events. It's called Impact. This is our 11th. Is it right?
Yep.
Right. So this is Impact 11. So this is the 11th in-person event. And I'll tell you, every time we do these, we learn more, we refine it, we change it a little bit. If you've been to them before and you haven't been to an Impact in like 2 or 3 years, come back, come on out, bring your staff, bring your team. I guarantee you're going to learn tons of stuff. This one is set up in such a way where we're going to have multiple different breakout groups. So we're going to have me with the doctors. We're going to have, Dani and other team working with other staff. Bring your office manager, bring your exercise staff, whomever you can possibly bring. I know it's a trip and it's travel and it's hotel and it's all that sort of thing. And that all costs money and time and all that. It's like, if you could take that and know that whatever that costs you, if you could, 10x it and say, that's how it's going to work as far as putting things in place for patients and the benefits and rewards that you're going to reap in practice in the following weeks to come. That's a very real thing. So think about it from that standpoint. Think about motivation and dedication of your staff that are coming out to this. Staff are super stoked when they know that the doctor is investing in the team, right? And so like also too, if you have people on your team that you don't see with you long term, and start finding someone else who is going to be there long term so that you can actually, invest in the right people to put this training in place. That's something else too. And that's something Dani even helps you with too. I mean, she hiring people, placing ads, interviews, because we've done lots of interviews over the years here. And when I say we, it's Dani is our primary person. She's interviewed lots of people. You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find that prince or princess, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, for the sake of us of focusing on this topic for this podcast, I think let's wrap it up here. If is there something else on this topic that you think we didn't touch on that it's worth throwing in there for another minute?
The only thing that I would briefly touch on is what you just said, as far as like hiring staff. A lot of new members could be solo, or they're looking to expand their team to fill in the exercise portion or maybe a billing portion. When you get to that point of hiring your staff member, bring them directly to me. I will catch them up where they need to be, so that way you can focus on training them on your specific office procedures. I will train them up on MoveNow, so you don't have to worry about it. So these members that maybe joined a long time ago, they've gotten new staff, they don't know MoveNow, and it's just too time consuming to bring them up to speed on what we want to do. Send them my way. I will do that.
There you go. That's what Dani does, and she's really good at it. She does it over and over and over with different clinics and different staff all over the country. So you don't have to go through that process. She is the expert at this. She's the pro. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks for jumping on, Dani. Thanks for everyone that's watched this and hung out with us. Let us know what else you want to see. We're going to get back to putting out podcasts on a regular basis. We took a little hiatus there. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching this video form, you're seeing this on YouTube, you're seeing this through Facebook or whatever, subscribe on YouTube so that you can at least be alerted when we put out new notifications. You got to turn the notification bell on and all that nonsense. So do that as well. And with that said, last but not least, we have a book. It's called, if you go to book.movenowyou.com, you can read a book. It's a book that we put together years ago called Move Well Secrets. Years ago, it's like 2000, maybe 18. But it's a good bird's eye view if you're just getting into this. And if you are not a member and you want to see more about what the inside portal looks like, you can go to demo.movenowyou.com. You can watch a 30-minute demo. And then there's all the information in there on how to connect with Dani and ask questions and see if this is going to be a fit for you and your team. So with that said, you can listen to those links again in our outro. So check it out, get your pen and paper ready so you can write this down, and we will see you on the next one. Want more MoveNow secrets? If so, then go get your copy of my best-selling book and watch my 30-minute behind-the-scenes MoveNow demo. My book is called Move Well Secrets, and you can get your free copy at book.movenowyou.com and watch the 30-minute demo of our exclusive doctor training portal at demo.movenowyou.com. With these two resources, you'll find my top 22 secrets that we've used to build one of the smoothest running, results producing, and super profitable exercise departments within a chiropractic clinic in the entire profession.